Hi, I'm Georgia Lieneman and welcome to this week's Friday 5 at 5. Thousands of locals turned out at Australia Day events over the weekend, with large crowds reported at Canton Beach, The Entrance, Woy Woy and Wagstaff. Central Coast Council announced that Olympic mogul skier and Narara local Matt Graham was this year's Citizen of the Year. Among other awards, Jasmine Shaw and Callum Sutton were named Joint Youth of the Year, while Caitlin Smith was named Sportsperson of the Year. Nationally, several locals also received Queen's Honours, being awarded the Order of Australia. Among the recipients was astronautical historian Kerry Doherty, and David Abraham spoke with her earlier today.
Because I was for 30 years a curator at the Powerhouse Museum, and a lot of what a curator's role is storytelling, in creating exhibitions that bring the fruit of your curatorial research to the public. So you educate by stealth through storytelling in your exhibition. And that was one of the things that I was really, when I first developed the space exhibition, the very first space exhibition we did at the Powerhouse, that was something I really wanted to do, because that was the Cold War period, of course, in the 80s. And, I wanted to show that it wasn't just the United States that was doing things in space, that the Soviet Union was, that China was, that Europe was, and even to a very small extent that Australia was. So I wanted to give that broader picture of, that space is not something that one nation is doing, it's something that's happening, a lot of countries are involved with. And I was also looking at the fact that space is a resource for the Earth, and we use space every day. People just don't realise how embedded their everyday lives are in space technology.
One woman is dead and 3 others hospitalised following a 2-vehicle collision at Forresters Beach over the Australia Day weekend. Emergency services were called to the Central Coast Highway after reports that 2 cars had collided. The driver of the first vehicle, a 37-year-old woman, was taken to Gosford Hospital in a stable condition. She has since been charged with a number of driving offences. The driver of the second vehicle, a 65-year-old man, suffered spinal and chest injuries and was also taken to Gosford Hospital in a stable condition. His passenger, a 67-year-old woman, suffered head, chest and internal injuries and was airlifted to John Hunter Hospital, where she later died. Warrnambool Airport is back in the spotlight as an inquiry by the state government into the so-called War Act creates some major air turbulence over the airport's future. Local activist Laurie Ayres says the War Act has already been reviewed and reaffirmed by New South Wales Minister Anthony Roberts. He says the Act already provides sufficient room for a modest uplift in flight movements and fears the review may open the floodgates for development of a larger airport and larger aircraft. Users of the airport and a large cross-section of the community, however, have welcomed the review and hope it will pave the way for greater long-term certainty, growth and maintenance of the surrounding vegetation. Councillor Bruce McLaughlin also sees the airport as a critical piece of local infrastructure and employment.
But the fact is, if you lose that airport site, for whatever reason you want to, for an alternative purposes, you'll never get another airport site on the Central Coast. It will be the only region in Australia that doesn't have their own regional thing. So we've got a lot of industrial land. We've got a lot of industrial land that can be serviced and utilised without losing our aviation asset. And as far as future growth for Warrnambool, it'll only ever be staged. It'll only ever be in stages that the demand's required. And as we move forward in aviation, as we're moving forward in cars and that, electronics and silent propulsion will take over it. We've had pilots come into the briefings and they've said the future for aviation is electronic, and it's cheaper and it's quieter. And so this nonsense that you're going to get 747s screaming over your house in Wyong is just exactly that. It's just nonsense.
Local seniors now have more options on how, where and when they travel with the launch of the New South Wales Government's $250 Regional Seniors Travel Card. The card can be used to buy fuel, use taxi services or travel on New South Wales Trainlink trains and coaches. Parliamentary Secretary for the Central Coast and Member for Terrigal Adam Crouch said to be eligible to receive the travel card, you must be an aged pensioner with a valid pensioner concession or Commonwealth Seniors Health Card and live in regional New South Wales. Many Central Coast residents joined a group of over 250 protesters who marched to Circular Quay last weekend to stop the rollout of 5G mobile technologies. The group is part of a broader international movement calling for research into the health impacts of 5G before a large-scale rollout occurs. The group is concerned with the growth in cases of electromagnetic hypersensitivity syndrome, or EHS, in people near mobile towers, as well as the potential loss of privacy from the invasive nature of next-generation 5G technology. The Central Coast has been earmarked as one of the pilot regions for the 5G rollout, and according to Stop 5G Central Coast spokesperson Eileen Selman, 5G has already been activated in Coolawong, North Gosford, Empire Bay, Erina, Wyong, Pickett's Valley and Wadalba, and there's another 53 additional sites being proposed to be activated in the coming months.
Started watching this stuff and looking at my innocent children, I thought, no, I have to do something.
So how did you, what's your position on the Central Coast?
I'm one of the admins for Stop 5G Central Coast. We have a website, a Facebook group, a Facebook page and Instagram because I'm just trying to get that information out.
And I'm particularly concerned about millions of children who are extremely vulnerable to wireless radiation. And within the last 10 years, we've had massive increases in exposure. And today, the reality is the youngest members of our society, from babies to toddlers, they are all immersed in wireless radiation, which has the potential to damage their cells, damage the DNA, and cause, in the long run, serious health problems.
Umina Surf Club star Jemma Smith has again excelled in the Australian Interstate Championships over the Australia Day weekend on the Sunshine Coast. She recovered from a wipeout on the surf ski at the start of the Open Women's Ironwoman, which left her some 30 metres behind the leaders, to take the lead in the swim leg before slightly fading in the final stages of the board leg to finish 5th. Jemma was part of the successful New South Wales squad, which won the title for the 3rd year in a row, edging out home side Queensland by just 6 points in what turned out to be an epic State of Origin battle. She took out the Open Women's ski event, powering home in the uneven waves to win the event, and then backed up to win the Open Mixed Ski Relay with New South Wales team captain Mitchell Trim. Title competition points continued to elude the Mariners on January 25th in their do-or-die match against Brisbane Roar, despite some valiant individual efforts. It was a bitter pill to swallow for Alan Stachich and his team, who dominated early with 4 or 5 searching strikes. The Mariners, however, could not capitalise on their opportunities, and it was Brisbane's Corey Brown who would be the only player to find the net, squeezing through an unlikely deflection in the final minutes to snatch victory for the Roar.
Knocked him in his tracks, and now Brad Inman for Brisbane Roar on the counter. Inman away from Gordon, and Mark Birikiti saves the Mariners' blushes once again. Unison with Brown, and they've taken the free kick quickly. Juric has an acre of space out with him, and now Jordan Murray on the tight angle. Back to the Serbian. Good build up from the Mariners now. De Silva off the post, falls for Murray, and he cuts it back for Tommy Orr. Somehow the ball has stayed out. And Nisbet, great distribution, sliding along the ground and finding Jordan Murray. He has Nisbet, Murray goes himself. Away, Akbari. Now O'Shea, sliding it wide. Brown! Well, somehow it's trickled in at the near post.
The Mariners now turn their attention to the match against the Western Sydney Wanderers at Central Coast Stadium on Sunday, commencing at 4 p.m. We wrap up this week with an interview of an extraordinary coastie, Vicky Campbell. Vicky has been awarded the role of Australia Day Ambassador for the Central Coast. We caught up with Vicky at Carryong Rural Fire Service HQ earlier this week.
Look, it is an absolute honour. It was fantastic the day that they asked me to do that, because obviously Australia Day is such an important celebration for us. And look, whilst so many parts of my life are filled with Australian spirit, I've got to say that I've never seen the Australian spirit, come to life more than during this bushfire season. And the work of the firefighters, the work of the community, the work of the other agencies to support, it's been fantastic. And despite loss, grief, which has obviously been substantial, there's also been this amazing outpouring of love and support.
In breaking news, Hunter-based Centennial Coal intends to start seismic testing in Lake Macquarie on Monday morning, according to a newspaper advertisement this week. The announcement has taken the communities around Lake Macquarie entirely by surprise, as reportedly no community consultation has taken place. Fishers and others are fearful the blasting will kill or damage the rich marine life in the lake. Save Our Coast founder Natasha Nadine has managed to get an appointment with the company today, Friday, and will try to convince the company not to proceed. Well, that's all for this week. Make sure you subscribe to our social channels and check out coastcommunitynews.com.au for all stories, and we'll see you next week for Fridays 5 at 5.